So he goes to Raymond Boatwright, and he says to the Reverend, look, this is a guitar I made, and they fired me for it. He said, I want to start making guitars, but I don't have any money. So I need tools. The Reverend says, well, I don't have any money either, but I got a Sears credit card, and you can get all the tools you want. So that's when they went into business. So Mosley, Boatwright, Mosrite. That's how the Mosrite Guitar Company came about. Okay, so then Semmy got famous out there on gospel tour and made a lot of money, and he used that money to support the Raymond Boatwright's church, and also to keep the Mosrite Guitar Company afloat so that nobody would lose their job when business got slow. Well, he was at a guitar show in Europe, and he met this Spanish luthier who made guitars with violin joints. And he saw that, and he was so impressed, he went home with this guy after the show. He went home with this guy and spent a week at his house, in his shop, learning how to build guitars with violin joints. And when he came back, he started a group of 10 guitars and to learn the process in production. Well, it didn't go so good to start with, but finally, when he got down to the end, number 9 was a guitar that was pretty good. Number 8 was really good, and but he put it through the paint shop and painted it transparent red. And so then he had a couple others and so forth. And so Reverend Boatwright came in and he said, well, what do you think? And he goes, well, Semmy, he said, red is the devil's color. You can't do the Lord's work with the devil's color. Oh, he says, okay. So the number 9, he made transparent blue, and the other, number 10, he made completely natural, all natural, no color. And he gave that one to the Reverend Boatwright. Well, Reverend Boatwright was attacked out in front of his church in Watts, part of Los Angeles. And he was attacked, and he was killed, and the guitar was smashed. So the only 2 surviving gospels were the blue one and the natural one that got smashed. So that left only one, Semmy Mosley's personal blue gospel guitar prototype that he traveled all over the country with. And when the Reverend got killed, Semmy was traveling with the Lester family, gospel singers. So he gave the guitar, the blue guitar, to Mr. Lester, who lived across the street from me. And he told Lester to bring it to me. And he went home to California to bury his partner. Well, one Sunday morning, I was going over to the convenience store to get my newspaper, and old man Lester was out there getting the bus and stuff ready to go to his gospel singing. And he said, Brother Hammer, come over here. I have something for you. So I walked over and I said, what do you got? He says, I have a gospel guitar from Semmy Mosley. I said, really? He goes, yeah. I didn't know that Semmy had done this gospel thing and had trademarked it separately and did it with violin joints. I didn't know that yet. So I said, you sure it's not a Gretsch or a Gibson? No, my brother. He said, it's gospel. I said, okay, let me see it. So he shows it to me, and it's got the sign of the cross on it and all like that. And I said, Mr. Lester, I said, no offense, but I can't play in saloons with that. So he says, well, he said, none of us play guitar. And he said, Semmy Mosley said to bring it to you. He said, now, if you don't want it, why, I can always go up to the music store, which was like 3 blocks away. He says, and I can trade it for microphones so my girls can sing. I said, yeah, I don't really want that. I didn't even look close at it. So he takes it up to the music store and he trades it for microphones. Well, somebody kicked my door in and stole everything I had. Stole my guns and my guitars and my amplifier.
Oh, wow.
And so I only had 2 guitars at the time, but it was like, holy crap, I can't stand this. I feel so violated,
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I need a guitar and an amplifier. So somebody told me, said, hey, listen, Marvin's got a Fender Tweed amp up there at the music store, and he probably let go of it pretty cheap. I said, really? Yeah. So I said, okay. So I went up there and I said, Marvin, I said, what's this Fender Tweed amp that you want to get rid of? Well, he said, it's this one right here. And he said, I want X number of dollars for it. Told me what he wanted for it. I forget what it was. And I said, oh, man, come on. I can't pay that. He said, look, sit down and let me hand you a guitar. You play it, and you see that thing sings. You'll love that. You'll love to have it. I said, okay. So I sat down. He hands me a Les Paul, and I'm sitting there playing a Les Paul. And I said, in the words of the immortal King Arthur, I think you've shown me the strength of your arm, not the sharpness of your sword. I said, I don't think that this Les Paul would sound bad through any amplifier. He goes, all right, wait a minute. So he climbs up on top of the rack up on top, and he pulls off this guitar that's on the very end, pulls this case down, and I went, is that blue guitar you got from Lester? He goes, yeah, how'd you know? I said, he tried to pawn it off on me, and I said, I told him I couldn't play in saloons with it. He goes, well, you could always change it, I went, well, I don't know. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, if you give me my price, he said, play it, see what it sounds like. So I played this guitar through this amplifier. Hell, it sounds way better than Les Paul. It just sings. And I said, yeah, okay. But I said, gospel guitar. I'm not a gospel kind of guy. He said, listen. He said, it's got a hard case. I said, well, that guitar says gospel. And I said, that's a Gretsch case. He goes, well, they both start with a G. That's close enough. So, okay. He said, here's what I'll do. You give me the $300 I want for the amp. I'll throw in the guitar. I went, oh, okay. So I did it. I gave him $300 and I got the guitar and amp and the case and everything. And the rest, as they say, is history. So